Proud of You is a parenting advice podcast and support group for dads hosted by two goofy dads. They are not pediatricians, nutritionists, OBGYNs, psychologists, nor are they authorities on parenting. They're just two dinguses trying to figure it all out. Their advice should not be taken as expert information. Parenting looks different for everyone, and there's no wrong way to be a dad. Frankly, if you're taking the time to listen to a podcast about it, you're already doing a great job. And these dads are proud of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey, welcome back. I am Derek Mata.
And I am Andrew Goody, and we are proud of you. On this, what might be our most "Hey kids, get off my lawn" episode yet.
which, if you notice, there was a pause between I am Derek Mata because you always say that. I say, kids these days. Get off my lawn, kids these days, kind of thing.
Derek wants to talk about a topic that I have my reservations about because I feel like it makes us sound 1,000 years old no matter what we say. Today we're going to be talking about fashion. Fashion from when we were kids and fashion now. And before you turn this podcast off, I think it's going to be a lot funnier than a fashion advice show because we certainly don't have any of that.
I mean, you got to think, like, look at most of the shit I wear. Most of the time I'm wearing shit I wear to work. Like, this is me not going into the office wearing a OD Green Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt here. So my fashion sense has long been gone. But the big thing that really got my attention is how ridiculous the fashion is when we were kids, when we were middle school, high school, and then the fashion that's kind of coming back around.
Well, so many of the fashions from when we were kids is what's coming back around, right? Like the people, like we were talking about the other night, we were talking about Jinko jeans.
Yeah.
Like I saw Emily and I went to the mall 2 days ago, and I saw a girl walking through the mall in like pipe leg jeans, and I was like, man, it is 1998 all over again. Like
early 2000s, for those of us who are in that time frame there, or high-waisted jeans. I don't, my wife loves Christina Aguilera, so, and my kids love music, so we put on a lot of Christina Aguilera music videos. And back in the day when her pant line was way low, like, that was the fashion then. You can see women's underwear, pretty much the whole thing.
It was unfashionable if you could not see somebody's G-string hanging out of their low-rise jeans.
Exactly. And now those high-rise
super mom jeans, man, super high waist. If it doesn't cover your belly button, you're not rocking the fashion.
Exactly. And you got kids in high school, kids in middle school wearing that shit. And it's funny to me because if you wore that shit when we were in high school, like, you were that weird nerdy girl, like, overalls. Like, real quick, because I know whatever you're gonna say is gonna be good. Overalls. You remember Not Another Teen Movie?
Yeah.
When she was the nerdy girl and paint covered overalls, and now if you see a girl wearing paint covered overalls, it's okay, and it's comical to me.
She's not wearing paint covered overalls because she's a nerdy painter. She's wearing paint covered overalls because she paid for those distressed overalls at some upscale store. Yeah, for sure.
It's just and we're poking on women's fashion, but like, the Jinko jeans, my stepbrother, but I call him that. I don't know why, but he is my brother. I grew up with him. He was the you remember the zipper jeans at the knee?
Oh, zip off jeans.
Yeah, like
jeans to shorts with just a zip.
God, those were, as the kids say, those were cringe. I can't believe I said that. Like, edit that shit out. Those were god awful when he wore them, but like, he wore the Jinko jeans, he wore the chains, he wore all that shit, and I was just like, no, Dude,
Yeah. Well,
like, I
it's
love
funny
my
looking
brother.
back.
He'll never watch this.
Yeah.
That was a terrible fashion choice.
I think it's funny like being able to look back, right, at like some of the things that we wore as kids that nowadays is like, good Lord, what was I thinking? Compared to some of the stuff that fell out of fashion and is now coming back into fashion. And then a whole other category of like timeless, like styles that like Levi's 514 straight leg blue jeans will, will live forever. Like
Yeah,
no matter what is
yes.
in fashion, what is out of fashion, if you're wearing a pair of Levi's blue jeans, you're good.
See,
Like
see, I'm a
sometimes might not be as skinny as the trend is, or you might not be as bell-bottomed as the trend is, but you're always going to be fashionable wearing a pair of just straight Levi jeans.
and see,
Um,
so it's funny that you mentioned that because like straight jeans are baggy in today's standard. When we were kids, like straight jeans was normal. Now everybody's wearing skinny jeans and it's weird. I wear boot cuts because I was wearing boots at the time a couple years ago when I first started buying them, and now I bet you're like, man, look at this grandpa right here.
yeah.
But
Well, I feel like women's fashion specifically has shifted in that direction where when we were kids, women all wore super low-rise skinny jeans, and now the fashion in women's fashion is high-rise like bell-bottoms or pipe leg jeans. Men, when we were, I mean boys, because we were not men at that time, like
that's true.
men's jeans when we were kids were all like pretty wide leg boot cut or like Jinko jeans, like full
Full
wild
flare.
uh for anybody listening who didn't live through the 90s and early 2000s and has no idea what we're talking about when we say Jinko jeans, JNCO, which I believe was an acronym for Judge None Choose One because it was a Christian clothing company.
Was it really?
Wild,
I did
wild.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Uh,
Hold on, because I want to put this on Siri. Hey Siri, what does Jinko stand for? Oh, it doesn't because it goes JINKO. Hold on. So I want to look this up because
I was gonna say
my
you're gonna call my bluff on the air, huh?
I'm going to call your bluff because at the same time you got to think FUBU was really big.
Yeah.
And of course, like what does FUBU stand for to you?
I have no idea.
Okay, so I was told that it means fuck you by us. I don't actually know what it means, but I learned that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Jinko meaning it's yeah, judge none, choose one.
Yep. Told you, man.
Wow, I did not know. But
So
who
so for those of you listening, Jinko jeans, if you don't know, Jinko jeans are pipe leg jeans where the leg hole of like the where your foot comes out was the same size as the waist of the jeans. So the whole each leg of the pant was the size of your waist. They
like
were
I
huge,
I didn't know they were that
ridiculous.
big. I
Yeah,
knew they were big. I was thinking like you can fit your shoulders through them. They were that
yeah.
big. Like I didn't know
They
that.
also they also had some of the biggest pockets in the world, which was great because you could fit like your whole arm down into the like which I mean back in the day was really important because you had to be able to fit like, your whole Game Boy Color in a pocket
Wow,
of your
we are
jeans.
aging ourselves, even though everybody knows how old we are who was watching this.
Yeah.
Game Boy Color Advance up in that pocket right there. Which also, like, I never put the correlation, but yes, like you had your Sony Walkmans, that were
Yeah, you had to fit a CD player in your pocket.
yeah. Fuck, we're old. But anyways, and it's funny though because those same people that wore those are the same ones wearing the cargo shorts, like when they mow their lawns with their New Balances.
Heck yeah, man. When dad fashion hasn't changed in 1,000 years. It's white New Balances and like denim shorts just past the knee.
But they're used to having all those extra pockets, so they're like the Jinko
It's true.
jeans held everything I wanted. Now I'm gonna wear my cargo shorts, and I can tell you, when I first got married to April, I did have a few pair of cargo shorts, but granted, I was in the military, so we had our military uniform, which had about a gazillion pockets in it. I had my 511s, which had a gazillion pockets in it when I was a contractor. So it only made sense to have cargo shorts that had a lot of fucking pockets for shit.
Yeah.
Um, and I was so dad back then. Like you wouldn't catch me dead wearing those nowadays.
When we had the conversation of last weekend about shorts and how like in like growing up in American public school as Derek and I did, uh if you were a a young man and went to public school and your shorts didn't cover your knees,
Like
uh
below the knee, not
like
not
below the
midway or
knee,
above.
like what would be considered high water pants these days,
Yes.
like had to cover your knee completely. Like if anybody could see your knees, you were at risk of being called gay. Which society has grown as a whole, and that's not as much of an insult these days as it shouldn't be. But like we were joking about the fact that like that was a serious concern growing up, was that like if you wore shorts that were shorter than like your knees, then like people would think you were gay. And now like the like jockiest, coolest, most like prom kingest guys that I see in schools are rocking like Chubby's shorts with a 5.5 inch inseam. Like, like
I don't know what any
I
of
have
those things are, but like I can imagine what they are.
very short. Think, well, and what's funny, so we were talking about cyclical fashion, right? Think like Tom Selleck, 1980s, like bicycle shorts.
Okay, okay. That now I got the picture.
Yeah, like, and that's what's in fashion now. And it again, it's come back around, right? Where like in the 80s, when guys wore shorts, like it's funny. There's I saw an interview with Tom Selleck, and somebody was asking him about the shorts because he always wore like super short shorts. And he was like, yeah, they're called shorts. They're not called long. Like, what do you think they are? They're shorts. They're called shorts. And like I just think it's so funny because it is like the fashion has come back around, and that's, I mean, like men's shorts are super short shorts again.
And it's funny though, because like if you look at my closet, like my own personal shorts are shorter than I would like, but because I'm too cheap and lazy to buy new shorts. But you remember Sam?
Yeah.
You remember the shorts he used to wear?
Yeah, those are chubbies. I'll almost guarantee it.
So I remember making fun of him for those. But now that I came back to that same place of employment, we have a lot of younger guys and they're walking around and you know, let's take my phone as an example for a leg, okay?
Yeah.
Like, you know, hip, kneecap, and their shorts are like way up here. For those of you not seeing, it's about a third of the way up from my phone
Yeah.
from their hip. And it's weird to me. Like, dude, you're showing a lot of skin. But like again, I'm very old fashioned, as anybody who has listened to any of our podcasts knows. I'm Boomer Derek here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, it is, I mean, like it definitely is something that has shifted over the course of time. And I think it's funny that like uh men's fashion has gotten more revealing. That's a weird way to say that,
Yeah,
but like
yeah, air quotes for those
men's,
of you listening on podcast
yeah,
and Apple or whatever.
men's shorts have gotten shorter, men's tights have gotten or men's pants have gotten tighter. Um, whereas like women's clothing has gotten more like loose, and their shorts have gotten longer. I mean, obviously there's outliers and everything, right? You're still gonna see women walking around in tight clothes and short shorts and that kind of stuff. But like if you look at the like trendy fashion, what comes and goes, what is in vogue right now is like very loose, baggy clothing for women, I feel like. Um,
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I wanted to touch on this point. So my wife, when she either shops for herself or shops for Evelyn, when Evelyn was here a couple years or with us a couple years ago, you go to Walmart, Target, wherever the average person buys clothing at, and what do you see in the women's girls section? You see a bunch of like crop tops.
Yeah.
And like
I mean, that's what's popular right now. That's the style for sure.
but like to the point of you cannot find a full-length shirt. And like, of course, I being a boomer dad and wanting my daughter, my preteen daughter at the time, to not want to show the world fucking everything. Like I was like, hell no, like you're not buying that shit. Like I don't care what TikTok or social media or anything has taught you or told you, like, no. And the problem is like because those companies want to they're going towards that fashion, like those of us normal people, those of us normal dads and normal moms, like have a hard time shopping for their children because and it's funny though because I'm about to touch on this topic because granted, God forbid you take them to Goodwill to go shopping. Again,
Man,
like,
I have such mixed feels. I love thrifting. Thrifting as a whole is so great.
I mean,
I
I do
have the
too.
worst luck finding good clothes at thrift stores. Um, what's funny is I can almost always find good clothes for Emily at thrift shops. Like whenever we go to a Goodwill or a Salvation Army or like Buffalo Exchange or whatever, I can always find super cute clothes for her. Um, and I guess part of that is just like my fashion is very, I mean, like you guys watch this show. If you're watching in a video content, I wear Henleys pretty much exclusively. In the winter, I wear long sleeve Henleys. In the summer, I wear short sleeve Henleys.
I did not know that was a name brand. I just like that's goody style.
Oh, it's not a name brand. Henley is a button down T-shirt. So like
See,
this
like
is this
so to me,
style
like
is
I
yeah.
again I wear Black
Yep.
Rifle t-shirts, I wear button down shirts. So you're teaching me
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Well, and like I wear a lot of button down shirts and that sort of stuff if I'm like going out. Um, but 9 times out of 10, like I work from home, so I'll throw on a button down shirt when I'm like working. But when work ends, I take the button down shirt off and I'm just hanging around the house in whatever's comfortable, right? And you know, the farthest that I'm going most days is like to the grocery store. I'm not putting on I'm not getting dressed to the nines to run up the street to Sprouts. And so
All right, Mr. Fancy
so
Pants
much of
Sprouts.
Walmart, whatever. So much of what I wear is just like what's comfortable that doesn't look bad on my body, right? And so like I have a lot of graphic tees. I have a lot of like I said, like Henleys. And you know, for years and like still honestly in the summer because we live in Arizona, right? And so for anybody who's not listening, we live in Arizona.
Surprise.
We live in central Arizona, so it's stupid hot in the summer
It's
and it's
so
like
it's
weirdly cold in the
107
winter.
107
We don't
degrees
get
today.
snow in the winter, but it's like bone dry, cold, and windy where it like cuts into you way weird. Anyway, we're also adapted to the summer. So like when winter comes around, it's like 60 degrees and we all freeze to death.
Not that
But
fair.
but in the summer, I wear graphic t-shirts, and in the winter, I wear graphic t-shirts with either like a flannel over it, usually open so that you can still see the graphic t-shirt, or a button-down, like a sports coat, like a blazer, um, over it to have like a kind of pseudo fancy Tony Stark-esque motif going on, right? Like
I mean, which Tony Stark you talking here? Like, to me, like I'm not seeing. I love Tony Stark. I'm not seeing it. You have a great fashion sense, but
yeah.
like, I'm not saying Tony Stark. Let's be
Well, I'm
real
just saying,
here.
like that's the specifically the Marvel Tony Stark is like very much like graphic T-shirt with a sport coat type of look.
Apparently, I didn't watch the same
But
movies you did.
anyway, but like, so for me, like I'm not typically the people who buy this shirt, what I'm wearing right now. For those of you who are listening to this in a non-visual format, it's a T-shirt with 3 buttons. Um, the people who wear this shirt are going to wear
Form-fitting.
this shirt until it's threadbare and then throw it away. Like there's not a lot of this in a Goodwill, right? And if it is, it's like Cheeto stained and gross. Whereas like you know, women's fashion is a little bit more intricate, if you will. Like there's a lot more diversity to it, and I feel like a lot of women don't tend to wear their clothes. Men are disgusting creatures. No, we're painting with a broad brush here, but like
Yeah, we are.
I'll wear this shirt until it has holes in it, and then when it has holes in it, I'm not gonna take it to Goodwill. I'm either gonna darn it myself and fix the holes, or I'm gonna throw it away because it's beyond repair. And that's just the way that I live my life, and I feel like a lot of men are that way. And so thrift stores are so challenging for me because I feel like I always end up finding either just trash clothing that I'm like, hey, I would have loved to have this new, or I don't find anything because it's all weird clothes from the 1960s that have been on the rack forever.
See, it's funny though, because like growing up, and I'm taking Goodwill clothes and this certain brand name, and we are not sponsored. And anybody from this brand listening, if you ever do, like nothing on you. You remember the Walmart brand Champion?
Yeah.
If you
Champion athletic clothing.
Yes. If you ever wore Champion when we were kids, or if you went and said, I shop at the Goodwill, immediately shunned. Nobody wanted to talk to you ever. Now, I can tell you, other than I bought this new probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago, this shirt that I'm currently wearing. Most of my Black Rifle shirts are hitting about a decade at this point. My work shirts that I wear, Goodwill, because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But I feel like that fashion is coming back around. Like you said, that 1960s that's been sitting on the rack forever. Eventually somebody's going to be like, hey, I want to find that article of clothing, and they're going to want to dress in that particular fashion. So go to your Goodwill, your Salvation Army, your Buffalo Exchange, which I don't know what that is. I thought that was a liquor, but that's on me. Oh no, I'm thinking Buffalo Trace.
You're thinking
That's what it
Buffalo
is.
Trace. Yeah. But so
Um,
I will say one thing that's changed a lot since we were kids is that like the world is a lot more ecologically friendly now. And so like when we were kids, shopping at a thrift store was like something to be embarrassed about, right? Like if you shopped at Goodwill, it meant you were poor and people would judge you for that. Now we're all poor. Like there's
that's a fair statement.
There's Elon Musk or you're shopping at Goodwill. Like, and so like thrifting is actually a lot more like it's cool when somebody is like, hey, where'd you get that where'd you get the pair of pants? Where'd you get that shirt? Oh yeah, I got it from a vintage store. I got it from a thrift shop. Like that's a cool thing. Whereas like when I was a kid, that just meant that I didn't have money to buy something new. Like,
it's funny.
It wasn't an ecological choice. It was a purely monetary choice.
It's funny though. So you remember the Macklemore song "Thrift Shop"? When
Yeah.
that song came out, everybody's like, "Wow, what a weird fucking song!" Like this guy's going to a thrift shop and buying shit. Now we're all doing it because, like you said, we're poor. We want to save money here so we can spend it here.
Yeah.
And God, that song is like it's amazing how it's relevant again. And it will be another 20 years down the road. We're gonna be, how old are we? Fucking 50, 60 years old. At that time, they're gonna be like, well, grandpa, that's an ancient song. But again, gonna be relevant.
Yeah. Well, and it's just interesting to think about the way that things come and go like that in cycles, right? It makes you think what else, right? What else from there's a lot of things that fashion and styles kind of go in cycles like that, and things from the 80s and 90s are starting to come back into vogue now in 2024. And it's a fun like mental experiment to think about like, well, what else? Like what was I doing in 1998 when I was wearing Jinko jeans that are coming back into fashion? Like what was popular then? Like what music styles was I listening to then, and is that coming back into fashion? What video games was I playing then, and is that? And I mean, like, frankly, I'm a big old fucking nerd lord, and so the answer is Pokemon. And yes, I'm still playing Pokemon because Pokemon hasn't changed in 20 years. But
no, it has, because now you can see the Pokemon on the map, and that's why I won't play them.
Only in some of them. But but like, and so it's just a really interesting like I know we're talking about fashion and like that's the whole onerous here, but you know, Derek and I started to have this conversation and it really makes you, you know, if you think like and something that I've been trying to do to kind of take a couple steps back, what started this process for me is when I see something and I'm like, oh, that was popular when I was a kid. I try to think of a memory that I associate with that thing, right? So like when I think of Jinko jeans, I think of my Game Boy Advance because my Game Boy Advance could fit in the pocket of my Jinko jeans. When I see wallet chains, I think about Insane Clown Posse because that's
Oh God.
all of the kids who had chain
That
wallets
was my
when I
brother.
was the age that that was popular. And so like it's a really fun thing to just kind of think about. And like I'm not this isn't advice, this isn't anything. This is just something that I'm doing in my life and encourage people to do because it's fun and funny. Like have those conversations with your kids too. Like if especially if you have older kids, right? Like your teenagers, Derek, right? Like Lucas and Evelyn, like when they're like getting into whatever weird thing, think about like, hey, when that was in my life, I was also into this. And a lot of the time it's just gonna be hilarious. But you could also make some cool recommendations, right? Where like my niece who's 11 right now is getting into a lot of that like she's in her Hot Topic era, right? She's getting into her pseudo goth phase and like I can make some recommendations of like, hey, you know what's really cool if you shop at Hot Topic? Tamagotchis. You should totally check them out. Because that's what I liked when I was shopping at Hot Topic.
Apparently, we went to completely different schools and lived in a completely different times.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, and I don't know. Maybe there's a connection there, maybe there's not, but
No, it's funny though because I was talking to my aunt earlier and she was like, "You remember glamour shots?"
oh
And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, we talked to Lucas about like how different life was back then, and glamour shots was one of those things. Like where you know the and she sent me a picture, and I'm not going to share it because like she has no idea that this is what we're talking about. So, you know, I love you, so I'm not gonna do that. But like
I thought you were gonna say you have a glamour shot of you, and I was gonna be thrilled.
there, you know, there probably is one somewhere that exists. To find it, you would have to be a fucking fantastic internet person to do that. But yeah, so like talking, you know, glamour shots and payphones and jeans and clothing, and I'm pretty sure we had a conversation with him about whale tails. You know, going back to the fashion thing, like you know, going back to the very beginning of when we started this episode, like and, and what kind of brought it up is whenever we would pick Lucas up from, you know, from track practice, or he missed the bus, we had to pick him up from school. You see these girls, we say mostly girls, and again, men's fashion has been pretty much the same. Jeans, which are getting tighter or they're loose, kind of thing, you know, you get it. Women's fashion, female fashion. It's like I would never dress my daughter, or I would never let my daughter leave the house in that kind of thing. And call me a bad parent, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and I mean, everybody gets to choose what's right for their family, right? Um, this is an area where you and I differ because like I could care less. And admittedly,
and we
I
talked
say
about
that
it on I want to say either a last week's podcast or the podcast before. We talked about letting Alana kind of do Alana, and then me being the way I am. But keep going.
yeah, and I mean, so like admittedly, I am saying this as the father of a 2-year-old, right? My opinions will change drastically when I'm the father of a 13-year-old, I'm sure. But just the way that I view life and the way that I approach life, I don't really have an issue with it, right? But I don't judge you for having an issue with it. I don't judge you for taking umbrage with that and wanting something different for your daughter. Um, I think the big thing for me is just having those conversations about the why, right? Like why, and this isn't to invoke a conversation between you and me right now, but like if when Alana turns 13, she wanted to wear, crop tops and low cut jeans or whatever, and I felt uncomfortable about that, I would want to have that conversation of like, hey, this is why this makes me uncomfortable, right? And it's because I've experienced what being a 13-year-old dude is like and how sexualized you're about to be in the clothing that you're wearing. How do you feel about that? And why are you wearing this, right? Are you wearing this because you want that attention? Are you wearing this because it makes you feel good? Are you wearing this because it's what's trendy right now? What, and um that 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 conversation has a lot of power, right? And you can get on the same page with your kid in a lot of ways by just understanding where they're coming from and explaining where you're coming from and kind of finding a common ground between the two of you.
Which
And that's not everybody's parenting style, right? I mean, a lot of people are more authoritarian parents, if you will, and say, "Hey, I'm the parent, you're the kid. This is how I feel, and that's how you're going to feel, whether it's how you feel or not, because you live under my roof and you live under my rules."
so yes, that kind of paints me into that picture right there. But I think my wife and I see it more of we've been there from both sides of it. Obviously, like I see it as I've been a 13-year-old boy who's been into girls, and like you wear that crop top and that short skirt and that whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ogle you, and my mind is fucking that and that kind of thing. And I don't
Mhm.
want my daughters, I have three of them. I don't want them to ever feel like their self-worth is how a boy looks at them.
Yeah.
If they get looked at like a fucking nerd and they become a nuclear fucking physicist, that's what I fucking want. Obviously, I am fucking way shooting for this fucking moon here, but yes, I would have that conversation with them. Hey, why do you want to wear the crop top? Like, for one, you can't be comfortable in that. Schools are cold. Like,
You're
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 you're you're
projecting your own crazy skinny boy things onto people, but
well,
yeah,
okay, no, because my daughter is the female version of me. My oldest daughter,
she's
Evelyn,
got
is,
your
is
metabolism.
yeah, so she is this fucking big. You walk into school with a fucking crop top and you're gonna be fucking cold. So that shit doesn't make sense. Don't wear that. But also I don't want any boys ogling my daughters because but that's me. Like I know we
Yeah.
human nature, reproductive, this, that, whatever bullshit. But I want my daughters to know that there is more to life than what that little boy over there is thinking. But that's me.
Yeah. Well, and I think so. I mean, that goes back to the conversation, right? Are you wearing that because it makes you feel good about yourself? And if so, does it make you feel good about yourself because looking in the mirror, you feel attractive in that? You feel good and you feel like yourself wearing those clothes? Or are you leaning into an external locus of identity and really feeling good because other people find you attractive? And if that's the case, is that what you want? Do you want to feel good because other people think that you're sexy or whatever the case is, right? And like obviously that's a difficult conversation to have with a minor with a
No, no,
teenager,
no, no,
right?
no.
Like
Which
because but also again, I've been there, right? I've been 13 and tr- worried about what other people are attracted to and how I'm presenting myself and how other people are seeing me. And so much of what I thought of myself at 12, 13, 14 came from how other people perceive me, right? Um, and sometimes that's a healthy learning experience, and sometimes it can be really catastrophic. And so I think those conversations around clothing are really important because it extends to a lot more than just clothing, right? It extends to how you're existing with the world around you.
and it's funny, so we're harping on this topic of our daughters, okay?
Mhm.
Our daughters may or may not dress a certain way. On the flip side of that, because I have a teenage boy in my household who just doesn't give a absolute fuck about anything. You know how many times I have had to tell this boy, like, take pride in your appearance. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, don't, I mean, you're a fancy dresser. You've always been a fancy dresser. And I'm like, just don't pull in your shirts like you're fucking trying to rip them off like Hulk Hogan in the fucking 90s. Like, do your fucking hair, wear your jeans clean and your shoes clean. Like, they're
Well, and the flip side of that conversation is also, hey, don't exclusively judge the women around you based off of how they're dressing, son. Right? Like, because that's so much of like you know, we talked about your daughter wearing what she wants to wear potentially based off of how men are interpreting what she's wearing. That comes from Lucas's generation, right? Like
yeah.
obviously not Lucas to Evelyn, but like raise your sons to value women for more than what they're wearing, and raise your daughters to value themselves based off of more than what other people see them wearing.
Which I feel like there's controversy in that statement you just made, but I'm not going to
Oh,
pick it
I'm sure.
apart.
I'm sure.
But like there's no shame in taking pride in what you wear.
Yeah.
There's no shame in being a parent and being like, you know what, that's okay. But I have both sides of the spectrum, on the extreme sides of each fucking spectrum. Like some kid, you know, Lucas, who doesn't give a shit about what he wears, and he would wear last night's fucking jammies 3 weeks ago jammies to school, and you have Evelyn who wants to keep up with the times, and I hate the current times. Like, it's fashion. Fashion is difficult. Like, and eventually, I think you just become dads and moms, and you just put on what's comfortable, because that's what I fucking do. But I will
Yeah.
not leave the house in basketball shorts, and my wife fucking hates it.
Well, and even that, I mean, speaking of wives hating fashion choices, I like Emily and I've had the discussion before where like when I'm at home, 9 times out of 10, I am wearing like an undershirt and gray sweatpants or a super comfy pair of jeans or whatever. When I go out, I will entirely change what I'm wearing because those are my indoor jeans. And if I wear them out and I sit on a public bench, then I can't get into bed with those jeans because they've been in public. Uh,
You're a little bit more extreme than
like,
I am.
when I go to the store, I put on an actual shirt, I put on actual pants, I put shoes on, I wear a watch, I go out and I present myself to society because I'm going outside of the house. Whereas when I'm in the house, like, do I want to look good for my wife? Yes. Does my wife care what I wear? Absolutely not. So I'm probably going to
Yes,
be
she does.
wearing
Yes,
whatever
she
is
does.
comfortable.
She told me she hates your style. Fix that shit.
Yeah, yeah. I'll clean it up, babe.
But no, like I don't go as extreme as you, but like I said, I will not leave the house in basketball shorts. It's lazy to me. I will put on a pair of jeans. I'll put on a pair of shorts, like normal shorts with a zipper and a button. Like that's dad
I
me. But
will say
I will wear this shirt out in public.
yeah, this might be a whole nother conversation, but I think that for me, there's a level of I will not leave the house in a way that I am not prepared for uh a catastrophe to happen. And that's a reality of living in America. I I will not I never wear flip-flops because I can't run in them.
I
I never
will, but I think
wear
about it every single time. Those who
shorts
wear
that
flip
I
flops like expect nothing bad to happen.
that's the thing. Like if I can't run fight and change a tire in what I'm dressed in, I'm not leaving the house. Right? Because
all right, that's fair.
like that's a well, this will be a whole nother level of dad preparedness. But like my job as the matriarch of my family is to make sure that if shit happens, I'm ready for it. And if I'm wearing flip-flops and basketball shorts, there's absolutely no way. You cannot convince me that I am prepared for something that I might need to tackle as a dad if I'm wearing flip-flops and basketball shorts.
That's fair. Like I will go through a drive-through in basketball shorts. I will go to the grocery store and flip-flops. Like that is the laziness part of me, is the flip-flops. But that's personal preference.
Yeah.
Anybody who's doing whatever they want, like, we are not judging you. We're just saying our own personal opinions on this matter.
Totally. Well, and I mean, it's right there in our intro. We're not experts. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about. We're just here to tell you what we think and what has worked for us and what hasn't worked for us. And for me, it's not flip-flops. Flip-flops have never worked for me.
They're comfortable, and when you're 35, they probably should stay at home. Like, but I still wear them.
Nice. Well, thank you for listening to our old asses talk about fashion and what we perceive as a useful take on fashion. At the end of the day, wear what you like and encourage your kids to wear what they like. And if you have differing opinions from your kids, talk about them and have those conversations, because more than building a distaste for a certain fashion, maybe you can build an understanding of the moral system or the ethical system or the life philosophy that you have that deters from a particular fashion, right? And I think that's really, at the end of the day, connecting with your kids is always the most pivotal part of being a dad, is just knowing how they feel and knowing how you feel and understanding the differences between the two.
And that's right. Like, and making sure that, and knowing, I should say, and knowing that the harder you push, the more your children are going to push back. So like, have that conversation with them, so they don't wear a hoodie to school, and then when they get to school, they take the hoodie off and they're wearing what you told them not to. Like, just have that conversation with them. Hey, why are you doing this? This is how I feel. This is how you feel. Cool. Let's come to a compromise. Kids will probably compromise more if they know that line of communication is open, but the more you push to have your side heard, the more they're going to push back against you.
Totally. Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. Our social media links are down below. We always appreciate when you can share the show with your friends, with your family, with other dads. We don't make a dime off this show. We're just trying to reach as many people as we can and share our opinions and build a community of like-minded dudes who are struggling with what parenthood is, because sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard. And sometimes we're well dressed and sometimes we're in basketball shorts and flip-flops.
That's right. That's right.
Until next week, I'm Andrew Goody.
And I'm Derek Mata.
And we are proud of you.